Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Pankaj Sharma, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to our latest edition of MGI Talks India. Today, we will be discussing why programmatic investments are a must have for brands. And to shed more light on the topic, I'm joined by Harry Bajaj, CXO at Axismobi. Harry specializes in mobile and brand marketing. He's fond of developing and executing business strategies for new market launches and product development that is consumer focused and geared towards market leadership. Harry believes in leveraging his marketing, interpersonal, and analytical skills to grow an organization while ensuring that it is customer oriented and profitable. Prior to heading Axismobi, he was the consulting group director at Mobi and in the past have associated with firms like Daylily.com and Gozu Private Limited. Hi, Harry. Welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thanks, Pankaj. I'm really honored.
What started as in process to automate the tedious buying methods of traditional media, programmatic advertising has completely disrupted the digital advertising space with the advantages like audience and real-time data, predictive algorithms, AI engine, ad quality, and fraud detection tools. Programmatic advertising is forced to reckon with, and we are seeing that increasing number of digital advertisings are turning to programmatic ad strategy to broaden their audiences and manage campaigns more effectively. And by and large, projection indicates that the Indian industry will shift towards programmatic advertising in the coming years, with an estimated market share of 45% by 2023. So likewise, adoption of programmatic advertising media buying will provide advertisers with great flexibilities and control over their creatives and optimization capabilities. How do you assess this opportunity?
Well, number one, I really agree with your thought and the stats that you provided that programmatic is here right now, and brands and agencies and affiliates per se, the whole marketing ecosystem is utilizing it. One of the main reasons where I think why programmatic is booming is with these options in the market these days. In the earlier days, I wouldn't go too back, but let's say around 4 years back or 5 years back, we didn't have too many programmatic platforms in market. Whereas a lot of marketers, surprisingly, used to never consider Google marketing platform as a programmatic platform altogether. Maybe it's more of a knowledge gap, or maybe they never categorize Google as a programmatic platform altogether. But now, with the adoption coming in from bigger organizations like Google, Facebook, and they are publicly, you know, uh, forcing the thought that they are a programmatic platform, including other big giants like Adobe and Verizon, which was already there, but it's there in India as well now, including Amazon advertising, and they're you know programmatic ecosystem is being forced and is being implemented by big giants as well now. So it's very evident now that if it's been adapted by and promoted by all the big giant tech companies, and they're converting themselves into and pivoting towards ad tech, uh, it only makes sense to actually go towards programmatic ecosystem. And the adoption will take place uh, by probably following one another, or just being forced by bigger tech companies that making it as a process of doing general online advertisement via programmatic. So yeah, the adoption has been good until now. It will go further for sure. It really depends on the key drivers and the barriers that we have related to each platform, because all of these platforms which are there, medium size or big size platforms, they are there with their own technologies, their own logics, their own algorithms. They have connected DMPs with them, they have connected AI systems with them, and logics. So whereas they are connected with a lot of similar overlapping inventories, but due to their technologies, the results are different.
Yeah, I'm sure that the adoption is largely with the bigger advertisers. What are your thoughts on smaller or mid-tier agencies considering programmatic in their overall strategy for media planning and buying?
Well, it's a good question because if you take it that way, if you take an example of a 360 agency, which does, let's say, programmatic, which they do consider programmatic platform as a whole separate budget for the advertiser, and they also work on an offline marketing plan for them, and creatives and everything. Uh, I believe they are well equipped with third party good programmatic platforms, and few of bigger agencies do have their own in-house programmatic platforms too. But I do see a real challenge coming in from mid-size or smaller agencies. Agencies, the biggest problem which I see is that they have not adapted to it, and there is an educational gap, knowledge gap as well.
Yeah, if you see like spend on digital media programmatic buying contributed around 40%, which was around
Yeah.
8,500 crores, and by the end of 2021, and since the beginning of the pandemic, we have witnessed increasing buying of digital media inventory through programmatic, compared to direct buying of digital inventory, which contributed around 60%, and it is expected that it will reach around 45% by the end of next year. So what do you think, what are the key drivers and barriers to programmatic investment in India? You touched upon on it in our previous discussion, but if you can elaborate more on it.
Yeah. So number one, I'll just quickly talk about the adoption that happened during pandemic. I mean, when there was a lockdown nationwide. Uh, it's just really a simple logic, to be honest, to why the adoption rate, the percentage of programmatic increased. There was just not many options. Number one, I mean, there was TV for sure, but offline marketing went for a toss. Nobody was allowed to be outside. So brands did have budgets still to promote themselves, and brands who, for example, real estate, or for example, other brands which are into OTT or something, they could not really spend their money in offline marketing, which is comparatively expensive. And you really cannot calculate ROIs all the time if you're doing offline marketing. Uh, the brands were actually forced to divert some of their budgets towards online advertisement, whereas the idea of programmatic did make sense because at that point of time, brands really wanted to reach out to people of certain segment, or because they were all at home, they can be easily targeted, and programmatic marketing was one place where they could really do that. So just clearing that point out, but the key drivers for programmatic, I would personally think of that, adoption by more brand managers. Over a couple of years of my personal experience in marketing and online event, I do believe that knowledge and understanding of whole programmatic ecosystem by the brand managers of even medium-sized brands or big brands has been good. They have become smarter, which is good. Uh, they were not so smart, according to me, earlier. But it's good that they have learned it, and there's always a time. But now, if I go and talk to any brand manager and talk to him about programmatic, there are chances that he would know about it or she would know about it. Whereas in past, it was always about, okay, you want to do programmatic? Okay, let's just do Google and Facebook or something similar. So adoption is number one, and this adoption, that really was again forced by bigger brands in place because they do have a say in the market. They do have credibility, and basis on their credibility, and since they already, they are really promoting programmatic marketing, adoption was necessary by the brand managers. Another, other point would be, visibility of data. Now we are in a generation whereas AI and data management and analytics has become really in depth. People are gaining knowledge. There are data science people in bigger companies in house, and they do in depth analysis of their user journey. uh, all that makes it really easier when you have a programmatic programmatic platform in place. There are always brands who actually focus on more ROI based, ROAS based ad spends, and they want to analyze user journey, whereas they can actually help the user with the experience of their brand, their app, or their website, and with data, they can actually do that. So programmatic does provide that at a certain level. Again, depending on the kind of programmatic platform that you're using, they do have their own data sets that can really help you with the user journey down the funnel approach. So that's another way of looking at it. Third, I can really push upon is the targeting options. Um, Targeting options were there before as well. I mean, since we know Google or Facebook, it's always been there, but they have evolved really further. And it had to be done because if you, as a brand, really are working on, mining the data and working on the analysis, you would need to target more in order to analyze more and get more insights for your brand, for your user experience, or whatever you are looking at. So evolvement of targeting options was very much necessary, and it's one of the key pointers that are really driving the ecosystem. There are obviously top players in programmatic, and they have their own set of different targeting options, such as geofencing or precise pinpointing on a certain area of targeting people. Demographics were always there, but I personally have seen various sort of different innovative targeting options that are being offered by a lot of programmatic guys. So that is really enabling and again pushing the brand managers to adapt again to the programmatic channel. But on the barrier side, I would really stick to one point. It's again my favorite, which is a knowledge gap. A lot of these guys don't know what they're doing. A lot of agencies I personally know, they really do not know what programmatic is, but they're trying to sell it. A lot of sales guys are doing that. They just know what the word programmatic, and they know that there is sort of a dashboard where you can actually put in ads, but they really don't know what they're doing, and they need to be taught. This needs to come, by teaching as a company, as on having various training sessions internally, and also one needs to learn by himself as well. If you're living in the same ecosystem, you might as well do it. So my only barrier is the knowledge gap for that.
In fact, you can say if top barriers that can be identified, one is like what you mentioned is like no operational elements. The other
Yeah,
one you mentioned during the first thing is that first discussion is that people, hiring
yeah,
the right staff or right people is still a concern for a lot of brands and agencies. And I think largely the third one is like the cost factor. Like not everyone and most of the companies can afford buying in seat on DV or any of those platforms, and somewhere they
yeah.
don't have those kind of budgets to actually experiment. So rightly pointed out. So if you want to have a certain or draw parallels between direct advertising and programmatic, what are the advantages for an advertiser or a marketer of using programmatic versus buying directly through publishers?
It's again really simple. I mean, if you want me to keep it really simple, I would just say that it's fast. It just, you can buy inventory in seconds. You don't have to have a trading desk and call your publishers or send them a message on Skype or email and just wait for them to approve it and probably connect with publishers after that as well. Sign e-contracts with them. It's just all there really fast, really done. Number two, again, transparency. Programmatic has a lot of transparency. There is element of ad fraud in our ecosystem. It will always be there because I mean, good and bad goes hand in hand. I believe that if certain agency or a certain platform says that they don't have fraud traffic, probably it's better to stay away from it. because they would have the highest number of fraud traffic with them. But transparency really makes it easier for the advertiser or for the agency to actually analyze and identify where was the shortfall, where was the fraud coming from, so that at least post attribution we can save some money for our advertisers, or that they can save for themselves as well. So that's another thing. Number three, I would say it's all there in just one dashboard. You don't have to run around. You don't have to do multiple communications here and there. It's just all there. It's all in front of you. You really don't need an agency for that to do it if you're a smart brand manager. So that's again a good point, I would say. And the last point which I would like to mention is the variety. So as I did mention earlier that there were just few handful of programmatic platforms globally, and in India hardly 3 or 4 of them prominent 3 4 years back. But now, if you consider, there are like more than 20 of them, and in fact more used by proprietary programmatic platforms that are not being shared by third party, but used by agencies as well. So the variety is humongous right now. I mean, it's like a whole market of programmatic platforms these days, and I believe it's a good thing because I wouldn't really compare red apple with a green apple out here. Both are delicious that way. Is that what which one do you want to bite? So the variety really works out there.
Yeah, in fact, the biggest advantage of programmatic advertising is, as you say, it's fast. In its
Yeah,
transactional nature, you mean say, this also means that buying will receive traceability of the advertising for better understanding the results for their ad campaigns. So,
yeah.
if you can tell me, as a marketer, how do you maintain balance between optimizing media spends, data transparency, and delivering a targeted consumer experience? Because these are like extremes, or it's very difficult to master.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The problem with if you have too much of precision in your campaign, too much of targeting, you end up getting nothing out of programmatic. So that's one of the shortfalls. That's one of the bad things that I believe about programmatic that is there, because too much of precise targeting wouldn't get you anything at all. But eventually, I mean, that's what the brand would want because of the ROAS factor in place. Uh, to maintain that balance, we cannot really rely 100% on programmatic as of now, at least. Uh, there's still, a lot of knowledge and understanding that needs to be there for each campaign. And I'm not talking about the programmatic ecosystem, but if you're working on a campaign X, number one, it takes a lot of time to gather that data, and the brand wouldn't have too much of time to actually, spend. And since programmatic is a bit more expensive than traditional network or affiliate traffic, the advertiser would really not want to spend 100% of their marketing budgets on just programmatic. So we as a marketer would really want to diversify, and that's the best way to do. I mean, if you really think about being a businessman as well, the advice is to diversify your funds, and that's where we actually advise our brands as well, that you need to diversify. Probably around 20 to 35% of budget can go to programmatic depending on the kind of brand that you are. But others should be also towards other network traffic or publisher direct traffic as well. That actually helps us to optimize the ROAS for the client. It helps us to manage the volumes because given the times these days, brands do want returns, they do want volumes as well, and we have to play around with these factors, keeping everything in mind. So it has to be divided attention. It We have to divide some budgets towards programmatic and majority of it towards areas, and that's how we do it as well as of now at least.
Mhm. So now, currently, there's a lot of talks going about connected TV and how connected TV will disrupt the market. So, what are your views on programmatic growth from channels like connected TVs and audio in the Indian market?
Yeah, so I mean, if you think that if you're taking like a 360 approach, considering what a marketer or what an agency used to do, or how they used to make a strategy for a specific brand, a monthly or a weekly or a quarterly strategy for a brand, 360 agency would typically online ads, that's Google, Facebook. They used to allot some budgets there, and majority of it was offline communication with radios, outside the OH guys, supply partners out there, and that's how they used to make the whole, strategy for a brand. Programmatic has given powder to the gun in a manner where a agency or a brand manager can really do all of that by just sitting on your laptop. You don't have to call people. You don't have to again sign contracts with them. You have more reach. You can now advertise on mobile, web, DOH, which is obviously a hybrid version of OH. It has changed now. You can do ads on radios. You can do ads on TV, which is via obviously Android or maybe some other operating system that's been used by televisions these days. But the whole point is it's all connected to the internet now, which was not earlier, which has made it so much easier. And brands which really wanted to actually invest in other categories or other channels like OH earlier, and they did not know how to do it. Now they really don't have to do much efforts on it, and they can really do it. So it has really helped us to actually explore more options as an agency as well. There are a lot of agencies and there are a lot of categories for us as well at Axismobi, I would say. Whereas we never worked on a OOH because we are not that sort of agency that focuses on that category. But now we can, and we do provide these options to our brands as well. So it has helped us as well as an agency to diversify and learn further with processes and strategy, and eventually helped the brands to actually reach out to more audiences.
Mhm. That's quite interesting. No, there's one more question that keep on coming in when it comes to programmatic. People talk a
Yeah.
lot about brand safety. So how do you address questions relating to brand safety that has emerged because of programmatic ads?
Well, they're like two things which really connect to brand safety in terms of being ethical, and ad fraud again comes into play. Ad fraud, obviously, at our agency, and there are other third party tools as well that have emerged in the market, which actually help clients on pre attributed ad fraud as well and post attribution ad fraud as well. So that is one part of it. But if you're talking about you know brand safety and brand identity, that is something a ad fraud tool or ad fraud technology or ad fraud logic wouldn't really come handy. Out there, I really believe that adoption of third party ad serving would really help with this, because third party ad serving really gives power to the advertiser, uh, in terms of putting their ads on whichever channel it is. It doesn't give power to the platform, to the programmatic platform or the publisher or anybody else to really play around with your creatives or ad banners. That really impacts the whole brand and the communication. There has been cases in past whereas good brands faced public backlash by showing wrongfully edited banners that was actually eventually done by the agencies, but they never knew about it. And I really believe ad serving technologies really help you with that.
Correct. So, despite all the advantages, programmatic advertising had also, raised several questions time and time again.
Hmm.
So it is a responsibility of both marketers and publishers who needs to ensure their brands are safeguarded against the possible risk when they place their ads online. Because what you just mentioned that, agency was doing it, but brand was not aware. And business should only select offers that provide more tools to target customers. and brand safety during the campaign execution. And advertisers should also work with the reliable advertising agencies that can help maximize your investments and adhere to the rules of the brand fit. So, what are the trends that are emerging in the programmatic advertising space?
Uh, on the trend side, I would say that again, coming back to the point that I did mention earlier, a lot of it, these programmatic platforms, at least the big guys, big tech giants, they are combining other technologies together. They are combining a TMP, attaching it with your programmatic, so that you can have more audience segmentations or more database to be collected and worked upon. Then they have attached AI technologies, whereas you can really go deep down the funnel, and as a brand manager, it really helps you out as well. So these kind of things are really growing, and these are in trend as of now. People are just trying to diversify in technologies within the same ecosystem. So I believe that's one of the main thing to look at, and one of the main factors.
Yeah, in fact, rise in ad tech platforms, having innovative, engaging rich media ads, and somewhere, there's a lot of, AI being developed in order to prevent ad frauds and bring a lot of brand safety. And, also the maturity of digital advertising is something which will lead to the adoption. And these are some of the emerging trends that will occur, especially, adoption of unified IDs, or, maybe sustainable growth for video and gaming. These are some of the key trends which are to be looked upon for the for the next year. And over the next few years, we will see that programmatic advertising will have a lion's share of digital ad spends. With that thought,
Yeah.
I would like to really thank Harry for joining us on the show. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It was amazing.